The birth of royal baby Archie to Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan Markle had more coverage in a week than climate change had in an entire year in some news outlets, according to an analysis by Media Matters. And some people think that that's a bit off. So Covering Climate Now was launched. It's a global collaboration of more than 250 news outlets, including the Daily Hampshire Gazette, meant to increase reporting on climate change. Reporters Greta Jochem and Dusty Christensen spoke with me about the Gazette's reporting.
I was on Twitter late at night, as journalists are sometimes wont to do. I stumbled across a tweet about the fact that The Nation magazine, Columbia Journalism Review were putting together this initiative to increase coverage of the climate crisis because media really hasn't done enough to report on this urgent crisis as we should. I thought it was a great idea. I sent it in a message to our editor, Brooke Hauser, and she immediately jumped on it and said, this is something we need to be doing. Climate change is obviously affecting our area as well as every other place on planet Earth, and it was something we wanted to put a focus on.
As the paper's been looking at this, you're sort of little over halfway through this week-long coverage. You've covered a lot of a range of topics, a range of communities. One of the things that you looked at, Greta, was how youth have really taken this up as something, many young people have taken this up as something they want to be involved in. One of the questions that you asked them was, do they worry about their future? What did you hear from kids?
Yeah, so I heard a lot of worry from kids about their future, questioning if they want to have children, thinking a lot more about the present and what they can do about climate change as opposed to their long-term future, which was pretty scary.
Another thing that you spoke with them about is the fact that they're all banding together for this Friday strike, which is happening not only in the United States but the world over, inspired by Greta, I'm going to want to say her last name correctly, Greta Thunberg from Sweden, and she's recently come to the United States to raise the alarm here as well. Now, what actions do these students want as they head to Boston on Friday and have other events that sort of mirror that across the Western Massachusetts area?
Yeah, so a bunch of students from Western Mass are going to Boston for the main climate strike there, and skipping school, which is sort of the point of the strike. Like, they'd rather skip school and strike than, sit in school and do nothing is kind of how they see it.
And they've been very passionate about the fact that they're not just skipping school for the sake of it. They're very passionate about this, right?
Yes,
because some teachers could think like, hey, there's very many clever ways to skip school here, kids.
When you talk to them, I could see how we would think that hearing the idea, but when you talk to them, you see that it's really not about just, a way to get out of school, that they're very, very passionate about this issue and worried about their future. And there's also some actions going on locally in Northampton I know of. But the main thing that sounds like that they want is just for politicians and more adults to take them seriously and to listen to their message. And one of the things that they really support is a Green New Deal specifically.
Dusty, one of the things that you've looked at is who stands out in the region as someone, as a community that's really leading the way when it comes to green initiatives. And Holyoke popped up to the top of the radar. What's going on there?
There's so much going on in Holyoke. For starters, after Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico, the city welcomes 2,000 plus families, including something like 240 odd kids into the school system with open arms. Obviously, that's the brothers, sisters, parents, friends, other family members of a lot of people who live in Holyoke. Of course, has a large Puerto Rican population. And so they have sort of been leading the way on recognizing how municipalities deal with absorbing displaced people. And of course, as climate change gets worse and worse, experts predict that storms like Hurricane Maria, as well as drought and other things, are going to make conditions worse for some people in certain parts of the globe, and there's going to be more displaced people because of climate change. So they've undertaken a study together with the state, looking at, and it's set to be released in October, looking at how municipalities address the influx of people as a result of climate change. But of course, there's all sorts of other things. The infrastructure in Holyoke is fascinating. They have some of the lowest electricity rates in the state because of the dam and because of the canals that run through the city. And so they also have a publicly owned gas and electric company, which allows them to really push head on into making sure that their energy system is carbon and greenhouse gas free.
And that's one of the things you pointed out in your reporting is that Holyoke, it's a very interesting counterpoint to how that city began in the way that it initially put itself on the map in the Industrial Revolution. And here they are in 2019 trying to lead the way in green initiatives.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, this is a city that at one point produced, I think it's something like 90% of all the paper in the entire country. I mean, it was an industrial powerhouse, especially given the fact that it was smaller than some other industrial cities across the country. And obviously the Industrial Revolution had a lot to do with why we're in this climate crisis now, the greenhouse gas emissions that we all see. Our economy needs seriously changed. The UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says that we need change the likes of which haven't been seen in history yet, right? And so it's interesting that Holyoke, a city that rose up because of the Industrial Revolution and because of the industry in that city, is now taking a lead on helping to address some of those problems that created.
You've spoken about this several times as a crisis. That's how the paper is reporting it as well. But there are people in this country who don't believe that this is a crisis. And Greta, you touched on this in an op-ed, which is something rare for a journalist to do, stand up and talk about their opinion publicly.
Yeah.
You talked about this idea that you think that you take issue with language around part of that, and specifically the word believe. What's behind that?
Yeah, so I decided to write an op-ed, which, yes, is a little bit strange. I've never done that before for the newspaper, but I felt it was related to our coverage and also related to my profession as a journalism. It's about words and how to present, like you said, not everyone understands climate change, which is what I was writing about, how I find it frustrating mostly when news outlets or journalists say, so-and-so doesn't believe in climate change. Because to me, it's a science.
The president among those folks.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And I find that frustrating because it's a scientifically, proven concept. Vast majority of scientists say that it's happening. And so to say that someone doesn't believe in it, to me, it just sort of reinforces that it might not be true. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to say that. And I think it's just because it's become such a politicized issue in this country that's sort of what happened.
To that point, have you heard from readers over the course of this week so far who've said, hey, we have a problem with this coverage? What have you heard from readers?
We've heard nothing but praise for having taken the crisis so seriously. I mean, the whole reason we wanted to do this and why 250 odd outlets around the country and in the world have wanted to do this is because, let's face it, a lot of professions, journalism being one of them, haven't put due focus on what is a very serious emergency that threatens, in the worst of scenarios, our very existence on this planet, right? So we obviously wanted to put increased focus on that, and hearing back from readers, they are very appreciative we did. This is something that causes a lot of people a lot of anxiety, and that the vast majority of Americans realize is a serious problem that threatens us and needs to be resolved.